WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often reviewing rare and exotic whiskeys. And today I have two duo 30-year-old whiskeys here on the table. Over here I have from Murray McDavid and Allt-a-Bhainne, 30 years of age, 230 euros, 46.6% ABV. Over here, I have from Signatory Vintage from Andrew Symington, one of his choices here, and this is 50.7%, 30 years of age. It is, as far as I can tell, a full maturation in one first fill Oloroso sherry butt. It was filled on May 1st, 1995, and bottled on the 29th of May 2025. My son was actually born in June of 2019. I got that wrong. 2095. He just turned 30 years of age this year. We celebrated his birthday. Shows how old I am. All right, so I'm going to pour this in the glass, 380 euros. There's 150 euros difference in the price between this 30-year-old Tomintoul and this 30-year-old Allt-a-Bhainne. Now, Murray McDavid, this is a Germany exclusive. This is only available in Germany. There's 200 some bottles of this. There's, is there 600? There's 565 bottles of this. I can give you the Whiskybase numbers here in a second. And before I do that, I do want to go through a little bit. Let's go for the Whiskybase numbers first. This is 281569. This is... Oh, I actually got rid of some of this. So let's see here what happens. Gotcha. There it is. And this is 278457. Now on the back of the box, there's not much. This is just a general Mission Gold. Mission Gold presents our finest vintage, rare, and prestigious Scotch whiskies from our traditional Victorian whiskey maturation warehouses. These outstanding cask whiskies have been matured over many years and bottled for their pure excellence, exceptional balance, and all-round perfection. A lot of different adjectives that are really not necessary, but here there's real information actually on this thing. It says in 1975, the Allt-a-Bhainne distillery was founded in the foothills of the mighty Ben Rinnes mountain. The distinctive dumpy and slim stills at this unique distillery produce a robust yet elegant spirit perfectly primed for this adventurous 30-year-long journey through the art of maturation. It says here at the bottom, during the first 28 years of maturation in a sherry butt, the angels took more than their fair share of this precious spirit. Our team rescued this remaining space cider by maturing it for 17 months in a specially crafted sherry cask from the celebrated bodega named Ximénez-Spinole. And this Ximénez-Spinole actually has a great reputation with whiskey makers of actually having some of the best seasoned casks in the world at the moment for sherry. All right, 46.6, 50.7. Let's nose this first. Now this on the nose does have a little bit of age. There's a little bit of that old wood, but it could be a little bit of a wet newspaper moment as well. There's Pedro Ximénez, a little bit of raisin moments toward the end here, but not great. The question that I always have to ask myself is, can you really rescue an mediocre to less than average whiskey with a finish? That was not a first fill sherry butt. That was a refill sherry butt, probably. And then they just put it in a fresh first fill PX cask and said, hey, let's see what happens. Can we save this whiskey and bring it up to 30 years of age to sell it? Because a 30-year-old whiskey, you can sell it more than a 28-year-old whiskey. Over here, they waited the 30 years as well. Full maturation of that one. Oloroso sherry. I get a lot of the fruit from the forest berries. Forest berries, a little bit of wild strawberry. Just that Oloroso moment, that sherry. And it does have a little bit more alcohol here on the nose. I would like to just tell you, at least in Germany, what the situation looks like for 30-plus-year-old whiskeys at the moment. This is 230, this is 380. So there is in the same batch at the moment here from Signatory Vintage a Glenrothes that is also exactly 30 years old that also costs 380 euros. There is from the Maltman, actually here, a Tobermory refill hogshead, 31 years of age, for 300 euros. But if you go up here and take a look at some other things, for example, Glenfarclas, the warehouse edition, 30-year-old, 700 euros. I remember buying the 40-year-old Glenfarclas, and this is 10 years ago, for under 400 euros. And now you're basically paying double the price for the 10-year younger version. Tomintoul has a original 30-year-old on the market for 600 euros. Bidivich, that's the Diageo special release out from the year 2020, 400 plus euros. Bunnahabhain, 30-year-old, 700 plus euros. Glengoyne, 30-year-old, 800 plus euros. It's just crazy what the prices are for 30-plus-year-old whiskeys. A Rosebank, 30-year-old, 2,000 euros. Lafroig, 30 years old, 800 euros. Bowmore, 30 years old, 2,500 euros. Talisker, 30 years old, 1,000 plus euros. Lachloman, 30-year-old, 600 plus euros. Highland Park, 32-year-old from Signatory Vintage, 900 plus euros. A Macallan, we're just going to not even talk about that one. What else do we have here? There's some Glenfiddich, a Grand Chateau, 31-year-old, 1,800 plus euros. Signatory Vintage with a Mortlach, 32-year-old, 800 plus euros. Glenturret, 30-year-old. Guess what that cost? 1,600 plus euros. That just blows my mind. Bruichladdich, 30-year-old, 1,500 plus euros. These are just fun. Gord MacPhail, Linkwood, Connoisseur's Choice, Cask Strength, 30-year-old, 700 plus euros. From Signatory Vintage, a Kleinlich, Cask Strength, Bourbon Barrels, 700 plus euros. And maybe last but not least, from Abgefüllt, from the Connoisseur's Choice, 31-year-old, 700 plus euros. So these are moderately priced. There's a lot of moderation. I forgot one. Dalmore, 30-year-old, 5,000 euros. That just makes my heart race to think about paying 5,000 euros for a bottle of anything out there. I mean, it's bad enough here, 230 or 380, but 5,000 euros, that's more than some people pay for their used cars. All right, on the nose, we talked about this. That little bit of old, a little bit of the wood, a little bit of the wet newspaper over here. A lot of the sherry, a lot of the Oloroso, a lot of the fruit berries, the forest berries, and so on. 46.6%. Let's try them. The thing that disappoints me the most, I get white pepper. This is hot. This is a 30-year-old whiskey. My brain says if you leave whiskey in a cask for 30 years, it mellows out. It's smooth, it's silky, it's rich, it's intensive, it's oily. And this is none of that. This is white pepper, hot, spirity moments. There's that old wet paper, even a little bit of wet dog in here. And that little bit of that raisiny Pedro Ximénez PX moment is on top. But the entire moment of this whiskey is not something that I enjoy. This is, on a good day, a C whiskey. On a normal day, it's actually a C minus whiskey. This is not something I would go, here, you need to try this. This is amazing. It's rather like, it's not even worth the 230 euros in my opinion. You can get much, much better whiskey for 200 euros than this. It's going to be maybe 21 years of age, but it's going to taste a whole lot better than this. They rescued something, McDavid in my opinion, and were not really successful. Maybe the patient was a little bit too long underwater, and the brain activity, the flavor profile has suffered so much that it might not have been worth rescuing them. Or you might have had to have actually rescued it even more and left it in a even more active cask for a longer period of time. I don't know. With water, it gets a little bit better. A little bit more of the age comes through, but there's still this hot white pepper moment that I don't want in my 30-year-old whiskeys. I did a grain, it has that wet cask moment. I did a grain blind challenge, I think it was 35 or 32 year plus. We had 6 different grain whiskeys, and a lot of them had that oaky bitterness. That's just absolutely the normal thing for older whiskeys. But this is just not wow. I would say if it's your birthday, so this was, doesn't even have the year on it. So it's going to be 1995 at least, but it doesn't even say the year that it was bottled here. On Whiskybase, do we have the year that it was bottled? Yes, it says the vintage is 1995. So if you're looking for a whiskey from 1995, this would be the thing you should buy, put it on a shelf, and just look at it and go, oh, this whiskey and I were exactly the same age. So for that, is it worth 230 euros? I'm going to say yes. Over here, if you're going to go for 380 euros, Slancha. This as well has some heat. It's different. This is white pepper heat. This is alcoholic heat. There's a lot of wood without getting wet paper moments. This is good. And there is a astringency there. And there's fruit. There's sherry, Oloroso, like a strawberry from the forest. Those little tiny forest berries. I used to pick one as a boy in the forest. It has that moment. If you add some water to it, and by the way, if you'd give this to me blind and you'd ask me the age, I would have said, oh, it's cask strength. I would have guessed instead of 50.7, I would have guessed maybe 53, 54%. I would have said this is maybe a 10, maybe a 12-year-old whiskey. Never, ever, ever would I actually be able to taste 30 years of age. But if you add a tad bit of water, you bring it down to like 48%. That water does dilute the whiskeys a little bit, and then you get depth. You get volume, you get age. Oh, looky there. Oh, yes, that's an older whiskey. That's going to be 18 plus years of age. Would I have guessed 30? No. But I would have guessed 18, 21. But without the water, no, 12. With water, there's depth. There's dimensions. There's resonance. There's like a resonance there. It echoes. With water, B minus. I like. Without water, C plus. Value for money, 380 euros. It is a 30-year-old whiskey. I'm going to give it a C. I want to give it a C minus, but hey, I can't find anything else out there in the world for a 30-year-old whiskey, single malt from Scotland, that's at that price point. So if that is a birthday, if that's your year, if that's your vintage, go for it. Very, very good. Over here, C. I actually C minus, with water C, without water C minus. Value for money to D. It is the cheaper of the two, 150 euros cheaper, 230 versus 380. And yet I cannot recommend it. This is a bottle that you can buy as a souvenir and put up on your shelf, but it is not a bottle you're going to enjoy and you're going to savor, unfortunately. So, what is the what is the lesson to be learned? Age is not the most important determining factor for a great whiskey. There are others. Age is a factor, but it is not the factor. My question of the day is, 1, what is your oldest whiskey you've ever had? 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, what was it? And 2 is, what 30-year-old whiskey have you tried and you liked? 30 plus years of age. Now, I've had some interesting whiskeys, and I mentioned the Glenfarclas 40 that used to be under 400 euros over here. Now it's up to almost 1,000. That was a whiskey I thoroughly enjoyed. Not for that price point, but just that whiskey. Every once in a while, if possible, at friends, at a bar, at a whiskey fair or show, if you have the opportunity to try something absolutely unique. I mean, maybe from the year you were born. I was born 55 years ago, so that's going to be expensive. But if you can just get 1 or 2 CLs or something, you're going to pay 20, 40, 60 euros for it. Savor it, enjoy it. Maybe it's actually worth it. All right, thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, telling others about this guy over here in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. And I don't like everything I try. And this is better, but it's still, in my opinion, not worth the dough you have to shell out for it. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.